Hi, this is Steve Conlon, Elaine Stefanos, and Susan, our client, our happy client right now. And we are standing inside the hallway, and about 21 days, I believe it was, that we were here before, and we wanted to show you the progress that Susan has been able to make with a lot of mindset shifts, and just to show you where she was before, we've already done that, and then where we are now, only 21 days later. So, let's show you around the house. This is the kitchen. Now before, there was a lot of bugs that got in here. It was unsanitary. As you remember, there was stuff in the sink. She wasn't able to have things to cook on the stove because there's things there. So, a huge progress in just 21 days. So,
and also the shelving that was her makeshift pantry is now removed, and so now, as you can see, she even has space to dine here at a kitchen table and actually invite friends over for breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
So what were the three most helpful strategies that we gave you that you used to, because we talked about it a little bit before, in terms of that really catapulted you towards warp speed results?
My sign.
Your sign.
Oh yes, the sign. The trash permission list. So if it oozes, it crawls, it smells, it leaks, if it's broken, if it has mildew, if it's contaminated, if it's burned, torn, infested, soiled, or moldy. So you looked at that trash permission list, and how about the one-touch rule? Was that part of it as well?
The one-touch rule was absolutely mandatory. If I couldn't see that I needed it for the future, it went out.
Right.
And it went out immediately.
Exactly.
In the near future, that's the most important thing, not
Right.
maybe 5 or 10 years from
we're
now.
talking about right this minute. Is
Right.
there a reason that I need to have this right now?
Right.
If I don't have a reason to have it, I don't need it. Because without their help, I would still probably be wall-to-wall boxes. But
Because of the heaviness
because
of
of the
everything,
heaviness of
yeah.
everything.
Okay,
Everything was so dark, and everything was so gloomy. Because when you accumulate clutter, you don't have any sunlight. You don't have any light because you have too much overage in the house. And if you're like me and you actually have ADD, then you can't move from place to place and be comfortable. You are too flighty. So using the blanket 15 minutes at a time goes a little faster. And
to cover up things,
to
keep
things
your
so that
mind
you focus.
Yeah,
You
that's
focus on one area.
Beautiful.
And that
Beautiful.
worked for me. And then you have to make a decision right at that point. And learning that I could make the decision, deciding for myself, was the most important gift that Elaine and Steve gave me. Because I can decide. Nobody has to make the decision for me.
And how empowering is that?
It's very empowering to feel that you can make a choice, that you don't have to have permission. And I don't know about other ladies, but for me, part of the reason I accumulated clutter was I had difficulty making decisions.
Sure.
But you have to select the past or the future. And in order to get from the past to the future, you have to stay in the present. And if you stay in the present, you have to remove the clutter.
There you go.
Yes. And you remember you said the bones. It was the bones of
the bones.
graveyard.
It was a graveyard. It was a bone.
That's right.
So it was the bones of 30 years.
That's right.
Because my husband and I were together 30 years, and I thought I had to give up my house in order to move past. But if you don't address the clutter issue, it just follows you where you go next. You need to address the clutter in order to grow, in order to mature.
Beautiful. Awesome. So what shifted in you that you were allowed to allow other people to come in and help you, and you let go of the certainty of needing to know where everything is. And
anxiety is the key. Listening to the tapes, it pointed out that anxiety is a root problem, and part of the reason you have to have grasp and control of everything in your life is that you're anxious if you lose something or you misplace it, that you won't be able to replace it. Okay? If you have not used it in X amount of time, then you don't need it. So I started with the tapes, and I listened to the tapes during the day.
so to be clear, it was the 6-week teleseries
It was
that
the
showed you
teleseries.
how to ditch depression, annihilate the anxiety. So it really annihilated your anxiety so that you were able to free yourself up.
And I was embarrassed to have Kathleen come. And when she came the first time, I told her, I said, I really don't want you here because the house isn't presentable. And I haven't had anybody in my house in 15 years other than my husband. I had about 106 boxes in my house and another 70 in the shed in the backyard. So that's about 180 rounding it up.
And you probably utilized maybe
and
5 of them.
Yeah.
Actually
And
used them.
yeah, actually used about 5. And finding that I had all those things, but they weren't being of value to me, but I was holding on to them for nothing.
Right.
They could bless somebody else. So you pass it forward. You share your wealth, and it will return to you tenfold. And I can say that unequivocally. And the family doesn't always understand.
And by the way, I want to clarify, that is not a label. That's a label that so we can describe what's going on. But you, Susan, is not a label. Because a label puts you in a box and says that's who you are. You're not a hoarder anymore, by the way.
That's not who I am now.
You
And that
hoarded, but
that-
we're now going to take that label off, and Susan is no longer a hoarder because that's not who she is.
And we've done it in 21 days.
Woo!
So that is a big achievement to do it in 21 days, especially when it was an accumulation of 30 years.
30 years. And so many people, we have 89-year-old people go, I'm helpless. There's no way you can turn this around. And we're like, it happens within days, and you
Right.
don't understand. It happens so fast and so painless,
Right.
and it's there if you just trust the process.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this most important question. Is there any way that you could have gone through it so fast and so painless without the mindset shift?
No.
Without listening to the Clutter and Anxiety No More program, our 8 CD program, what did you think of that program?
If it hadn't been for the 8 CD program, I would still be wall-to-wall boxes, and I can admit that now.
I'm tearing up right now because this is literally what Elaine and I have spent tens of thousands of hours to put together so that literally within days people can be set free, truly set free from within, because we know it's an inside game. And now you can go contribute to the world instead of you going to work and not talking to people. That's not the real you. That's
Right.
not the real Susan. We know the most beautiful people end up dealing with hoarding and clutter issues. The most beautiful hearted people. And we want to be part of unleashing them onto
Yes.
the world. And then the butterfly effect of, oh my God, because there's so much negativity and pain and fear and anguish. It's like we want to set the people free. And you are just another one added on to our list of beautiful people that have been unleashed to the world. So I so honor you, Susan. I know it takes a little effort. You got to listen to the material. You got to practice it. You got to start living consciously. But you are
did it,
proof.
yeah.
In 21 days, you are a more centered, more healthy, more vitality woman that is just beautiful. And I'm so glad to meet the real Susan,
There you
because the
go.
old one was the one that was basically projecting to the world. You know, you go to work and it's inauthenticity, but now you can come home and you can be the real authentic Susan in your own sanctuary of your home.
Right.
Okay, so
Beautiful.
good job.
I hadn't opened the blinds because part of the fear of a hoarder is someone will see the secret.
The dirty little secret.
The dirty little secret, but now the window's open.
Yeah.
And I never thought I had a hoarding issue. I thought it was predominantly my husband because he never wanted anybody to come to the house. He was raised in the same time period that I was, and he didn't like to give things up either. He was very neat and very orderly, but he had a lot. And we didn't give it up, because if you give it up, then you lose something from your life. Well, you're not losing if you're passing it forward.
Beautiful.
And if you pass it forward to someone who needs it, it's a better value than just wasting away in a spot. And I got rid of a lot of things. I thought I would be emotionally devastated and cry a lot. That didn't happen because there was so much relief, a lessening of the pressure, lessening of the fear that people would know. And
through the mindset
work.
Yeah.
If you don't do the mindset work, if you don't listen to the tapes, if you don't take the time to forgive yourself, because it all starts with personal forgiveness. And if you don't believe that you can do it, you have to come to the point where you believe in yourself and you can forgive yourself. Now that's either going to happen in the first 3 or 4 hours or in the first week. And it will happen.
Give me some high five on that.
And when it happens, everything changes.
Yes.
Your whole perspective of life changes.
Yes.
I've discovered that by putting yourself second in everything, you then become depressed. And once you become depressed, you start to not give things up, which leads to hoarding. And you not only hurt yourself, you hurt your loved ones, and you hurt the world around you because you take a resource away. You have a resource, you have a talent, whatever it might be. I don't really know what mine is, but whatever it is, we're going to find it.
Yeah!
That's where
See,
we are.
we're changing the
So-
focus to growth, to contribution, as opposed
Right.
to depression, fear, anxiety. It's what we're focusing. That's the training of the brain. And now you have a whole new trajectory, a new intention, attention in life, right?
Right.
That's what it's all about.
Right.
So great job, Susan.
Yeah.
What, for now that you've had 21 days, or through the process of being able to find things, not buying duplicate items, what kind of life is that like?
Last month I spent $350 in groceries. Okay? I did my grocery shopping yesterday and I spent $99.
Wow.
There you go.
Part of what you do to yourself when you start hoarding, you put yourself in such a negative place that you don't enjoy even the simple things in life. The normal sunlight, you go out the door and you don't even see it.
Wow.
And I go out the door now and every day I celebrate that I have roses in my front garden and that I have a car that I can go to. And I haven't made that effort to go to another person's home in over 20 years.
Wow.
So
Look at the
it's a big
freedom
difference.
that in all areas of your life, from the food you eat, through the energy you have, to the exercise, to church, honoring God.
When you are thankful, you always have abundance. And abundance is what you've been looking for.
Yeah. But the abundance has to come from within.
It has
in
to
order
be here. It
experience
has to
it
be in
outside.
your soul.
Yeah.
Right.
The fear that somebody might discover that you have a hoarding issue is the reason that you get depressed. When you get depressed, you physically, emotionally, and mentally become ill. And if you don't address it, the fear is the key. If you don't face your fears, you will never heal.
And really the fear is the false experience appearing real. So there was really nothing to fear, was it?
No.
There's actually such beauty and peace and lightness on the other side of that cloud of fear that we have. Our brain does that to us. It says there's so much
And
fear.
we do it to ourselves. And once that happened, I spiraled downward, because when you close yourself off, you can't grow. And if you don't grow, you fester, and eventually you become ill. And it's an infection of the mind and the spirit. If you can't heal, it'll never go away. But if you do the tapes and you take the time for yourself and encourage others in your family to listen to the tapes as well, tell them it's going to take time, but understand they'll help you, and they love you. They love you. They're willing to help. But you have to let them in. And you have to accept that there's going to be criticism. Criticism is part of life. It's also part of growing. And it takes a bigger person to open the door than it takes to hide behind the clutter.
That's right. It's a very small way to go through life. It doesn't take a lot of courage to isolate yourself. That's the weaker, more, that's obviously not the path to happiness, to fulfillment, to joy, to inner peace, right? This is what you did for 30 years. There's a much better way that you've been living for even the last 14 days at least.
Right.
So what would be the biggest difference through this whole transformation? What would you say would be the biggest benefit, biggest change that you've experienced?
Serenity. Tranquility within myself, within my life, within my home. And you build an invisible wall around yourself when you hoard, and people can't get past it. When you break the invisible barrier, you discover that people reach out, and if you reach back, it becomes more positive.
When was the last time you've hummed or sang or whistled or anything?
I was originally going to be a music major.
Wow.
So, 40 years,
Wow.
42 years.
Wow.
And that's what we find, and that's why we're really educating the world on this, that so many people, so many families focus on the clutter, and we're like, that's not going to work
Right.
until you shift the inside game of what's going on. Would you agree? That
Yes.
for 30 years?
And
In the teleseries, one part of it, if you remember, is that incantation.
Right.
I'm perfect, whole,
whole,
and
and
complete,
complete,
just
the way I am.
Yes.
Right. And then the other part is, I love myself for all that I am and all that I'm not.
got, and all that I will be.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
And, you know,
and that's beautiful, because that is that self-love and
Yes.
that acceptance that our Creator created us just the way we are, perfect, whole, and complete. And once each person is able to understand that self-love, that's where the beauty comes out.
And that's the part that I didn't understand.
Right.
and Jesus Christ said, Father, they know not what
What
they
they
do,
do.
right?
Right.
And literally Elaine and I, our whole mission, life's mission, is that we know you don't know what you're
But you-
doing to
yes.
yourself.
Right.
And our goal is to educate people and bring them the work that is needed to very quickly, very painlessly shift the inside game, the mindset, the psychology. And it's not painful, right?
No,
it takes a little
it's not.
time.
It takes a little time.
Little
and
time to learn it.
It takes a little patience with yourself, because I found when I started that I already know this. I don't need this. I already know this. Why am I listening to this? And then it went a little further. And then Marianne came on.
On the
Clutter and Anxiety No More
Right.
HCD program.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And she said, things are different when you find the key. Well, I wanted to know what the key was. So it'll get better.
Awesome.
One day
So
at
you
a
still
time.